Welcome to Your Next English. You're listening to English Listening Practice, Football Legends Stories, where great football stories become a powerful way to improve your English. Here, you'll discover the incredible lives of football legends, their dreams, struggles, victories, and unforgettable moments. And while you enjoy every story, you're naturally strengthening your English listening, vocabulary, pronunciation, and comprehension. You'll hear clear, natural American English, helping you understand more, follow conversations, and build confidence as you listen. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let the story take you into the world of a football legend. Listen carefully, enjoy the journey, and get ready to discover a legend. Let's get started.
Who is Andrés Iniesta?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, just picture this for a second. Imagine the most chaotic, deafening stage on Earth.
Yeah, right.
1 billion people are watching on television. On the field, you have massive, muscle-bound athletes, sprinting, colliding, violently kicking at each other's ankles.
It is incredibly intense.
Exactly. The pressure is just suffocating. And right in the middle of all this aggressive chaos is this pale, quiet 5'7" man.
He really does look more like a substitute teacher than an elite athlete.
He totally does. But he is playing the game in complete, beautiful silence. He doesn't fight the chaos, he simply glides through it.
Yeah, it's like magic.
It is. So welcome to another episode of English Podcast Football Legends. I am so glad you are here with us today.
We are thrilled to have you here.
We really are. Today we're going on this cinematic, deeply emotional deep dive into the life of one of the most respected, most elegant midfielders in the entire history of football.
The journey is incredible.
We are traveling from a quiet, dusty village in Spain all the way to the grandest stage on Earth, where a shy boy grew up to score the goal that gave his country its very first FIFA World Cup.
And we really want to welcome you, the listener, directly. We are speaking right to you.
Yes, directly to you.
Because this deep dive has a wonderful dual purpose. First, you are going to experience a truly incredible human story.
A completely unforgettable story.
But second, simply by listening to our conversation today, you are going to naturally improve your English listening skills.
Effortlessly, really.
Exactly. We're speaking slowly, we're speaking very clearly, and using authentic American pronunciation. You are going to hear useful, everyday vocabulary.
And, if we use a complex phrase, we will naturally explain it through our conversation.
Just like we would with any good friend sitting in the room with us.
Because learning a language should never, ever feel like studying a boring textbook.
Oh, absolutely not. It should feel like sitting here with us, listening to a great story and absorbing the language completely effortlessly.
Which is going to build your speaking confidence, right?
Yep.
And help you master common native expressions.
Yeah, and the story we have for you today, it's just packed with valuable life lessons.
So many lessons. I mean, we are going to explore deep humility. We will look at perseverance, discipline, and the absolute power of teamwork.
And emotional resilience, too. We're going to dive into what it actually takes to overcome devastating personal struggles and depression.
Yeah, that part is heavy, but so important. You will see what it means to lead through your actions rather than loud words, how to stay completely calm under immense pressure.
And how to achieve ultimate greatness without ever demanding to be the center of attention.
Right. So I warmly encourage you to stay with us until the very end, because the emotional payoff of this journey is just, it's unforgettable.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this incredible life story. I really want to understand the roots of this man. Take me back to the very beginning, to that tiny village in Spain.
Well, if we really want to understand the quiet hero of the World Cup, we have to start by looking at his environment.
His hometown.
Exactly. We have to look at the rural, working-class world that built his personality. Andrés Iniesta Lujan was born on May 11th, 1984.
Okay.
And he was born in Fuentealbilla, which is a very, very small village in the Albacete province of Spain. This is in a region known as Castilla-La Mancha.
I'm trying to picture it. What does it look like?
Let me paint a picture for you.
Go on.
It is flat, it is very hot, and it is completely surrounded by agriculture and vineyards. And the population of this village was only around 2,000 people.
Wait, really? Only 2,000 people?
Yeah, just 2,000.
Wow. I grew up in a medium-sized town, and even that felt small. I mean, a village of 2,000 people means there are absolutely no secrets.
Right. Everyone knows everyone.
Exactly. Everybody knows your parents. Everybody knows your grandparents. It is a very tight, enclosed community.
It was a very close community, and it was entirely built on hard work. And his family was the absolute definition of working class.
What did his parents do?
Well, his father, Jose Antonio, was a bricklayer.
Oh, wow. That is a tough job.
It really is. That means his daily life consisted of standing in the hot Spanish sun, lifting heavy stones and bricks all day, mixing cement and building walls by hand.
I can only imagine the physical toll that takes on a person's body.
It is exhausting, brutal physical labor. It absolutely breaks your body down over time.
Yeah, I bet.
But his father also really loved football and played as an amateur in his free time.
And what about his mom?
His mother, Marie Lujan, was a homemaker who spent her days helping to run a small local bar that belonged to Andrés' grandfather.
So they were just constantly working.
Always. They were a busy, exhausted, loving family just trying to make a living. And Andrés also has a younger sister named Maribel.
So the environment was very, very grounded.
Extremely grounded.
You know, this setting gives us such clear context for his personality. We constantly hear people describe Andrés Iniesta as someone with deep humility.
Yes. Humility is the word you always hear.
And for anyone listening who might not use that word every day, humility is that quality where you do not think you are better than anyone else.
Right, you stay grounded.
Exactly. You don't brag, you don't show off your money, and you always remember that you are just a normal person.
That is a perfect explanation of humility.
Thanks. I mean, when you come from a family where your dad is laying bricks in the sun and your mom is washing glasses in a small town bar, that humility is just baked into your DNA.
You know the value of $1 and the value of hard work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I assume he carried that exact mindset into football.
He absolutely did. But what is truly fascinating is that he didn't grow up playing on beautiful green grass fields like kids in big academies do today.
Right, because the village was too small.
Exactly. Fuentealbilla was way too small. They didn't even have proper football pitches. So young Andrés played futsal.
Oh, futsal. I find this detail so important. I want to make sure I understand this correctly for the listeners.
Go ahead.
Futsal is played on a hard surface, right? Like a basketball court or just a concrete street. And the ball is smaller and heavier. It doesn't bounce as much.
You have the mechanics exactly right. The ball is heavier and the court is much, much smaller than a regular grass pitch.
So why does that matter so much for his development?
Because in futsal, you have no space and you have no time. If you take a bad touch, the ball just rolls away on the hard concrete, or a defender instantly takes it from you.
Ah, I see. It's like trying to learn how to dance inside a crowded phone booth.
That is a fantastic analogy, yes. Dancing in a phone booth.
Because you can't rely on being fast and just running past people into open space, because there is no open space.
Right, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And because he was physically small and playing on these hard courts, he had to develop absolutely perfect technique.
He had to be flawless.
He really did. He learned to keep the ball glued to his feet. By the time he was 8 years old, his talent was just undeniable.
So what did his parents do?
They decided to enroll him in a local club in the nearby city called Albacete Balompié. But, you know, money was very tight for the family.
Right, on a bricklayer salary.
Yeah. And in the sources we have, there is a very moving detail about this specific time. His father wanted to buy Andrés his first pair of proper football boots.
Weights, right?
But a good pair of boots was really expensive. So his father had to save up money for months, putting away tiny amounts from his bricklaying wages just to afford those shoes.
Oh, wow. That makes me quite emotional, actually. A father sacrificing his own comfort for months just to buy shoes for his son.
It shows how much they believed in him, even then.
It really does. But it brings up a major question for me. I mean, I understand he has talent. I understand he has the new boots.
Yeah.
But how does a kid in a tiny, dusty village playing for a small local club ever get noticed by the giant global football clubs? It feels like looking for a needle in a haystack.
It does feel completely impossible. But raw, undeniable genius just cannot be hidden forever.
So when did the breakthrough happen?
It happened when Andrés was 12 years old. His local team traveled to play in a very famous junior seven-a-side football tournament. It was called the Brunette Tournament.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, this tournament was a huge deal. It was broadcast on television, and it was the central place where scouts from all the major clubs in Spain would go to look for new talent.
Let me just jump in. For our listeners, a scout is basically a talent hunter, right?
Yeah.
Their entire job is to travel around and find the stars of tomorrow.
That's exactly right.
So all the big clubs are there, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid. They were just sitting in the stands with their notebooks.
Yes, taking notes on all these 12-year-olds. And during this tournament, Andrés was spectacular.
I can imagine.
He controlled the games with a maturity that just did not make sense for a kid that age. And one of the scouts watching from the stands was a man named Albert Benages.
Who did he work for?
He worked for FC Barcelona's famous youth academy, which is known as La Masia.
Oh, La Masia.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Right. Benages took one look at this pale, quiet, tiny boy dictating the entire rhythm of the game, and he knew instantly Barcelona had to sign him.
But getting noticed is really only the very first step, isn't it?
This is the easy part.
Yeah, it's the easiest part. Having talent gets you an invitation, but actually achieving greatness requires massive personal sacrifice.
Oh, absolutely.
And this brings us to a period of his life that is genuinely heartbreaking. Andrés faced a choice that I don't think any 12-year-old should ever have to make.
It was an enormous burden for a child. Barcelona wanted him, but the family was terrified.
Of course they were.
Sending a small, shy boy from a village of 2,000 people to a massive metropolis of over 1 million people, hundreds of miles away. It was a terrifying thought.
So how did Barcelona convince them?
The story of how they actually convinced the family to visit the academy is wonderfully quirky. It involved a family vacation.
Wait, really? A vacation?
Yeah, the Iniesta family was taking a rare trip to a very famous amusement and water park in Catalonia called PortAventura.
Okay, so they are going to ride roller coasters and go down water slides.
Right, just a normal family trip. And another Barcelona scout, a man named Joan Martinez Vilaseca, knew they would be in the area for this vacation.
Oh, he was sneaky.
Very. He essentially used this timely family trip to convince the parents. He said, look, since you are already here, why don't you just come and look at the La Masia facilities? Just a tour.
That is a very smart sales tactic. Just get them in the door.
It worked perfectly. They saw the academy, they heard the pitch, and the decision was made.
Wow.
In September of 1996, at just 12 years old, Andrés packed his bags and moved to Barcelona. He moved into La Masia, which at the time was an old, traditional Catalan farmhouse, sitting right next to the massive concrete stadium, the Camp Nou.
I want to pause here and really emphasize how painful this was for him.
It was devastating.
We're talking about a boy who was incredibly attached to his parents. He later described the day he was dropped off at the academy as the worst day of his life.
Yeah.
He explicitly said that he, and I quote, cried rivers.
He was entirely consumed by homesickness.
And that is a feeling we can all relate to, but maybe not at that extreme level. For our listeners learning English, homesickness is that deep physical ache you get in your chest when you're far away from everything you know and love.
You just want your family.
Right. It is anxiety and sadness mixed together. Young Andrés was surrounded by other kids, but he felt completely isolated.
He cried himself to sleep in his dormitory bed every single night.
I read that leaving his parents was described as a bitter pill to swallow.
That's a great phrase.
For anyone improving their English, that is a fantastic visual idiom. Imagine a pill that tastes horrible, but the doctor tells you that you must swallow it to get better.
Right, you have no choice.
A bitter pill to swallow is a painful truth or a really difficult situation that you simply have to accept because it's necessary for your future. Accepting that he had to live without his mom and dad was a very bitter pill for this 12-year-old.
And this brings us to one of the most remarkable cinematic stories from our sources.
I love this story.
It is known as the story of the hotel rally. I want you to picture the scene.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Because Andrés was crying so much on that first day, his parents just couldn't bear to drive all the way back to their village right away.
They couldn't leave him.
No, they couldn't. So they rented a room at a nearby hotel called the Hotel Rally, which was just down the street from the academy.
So they are sitting in a hotel room knowing their son is crying in a strange bed just a few blocks away.
Exactly. And the atmosphere in that hotel room was suffocating. His father, Jose Antonio, and his grandfather were in immense emotional pain.
Just agonizing.
They were pacing the floor of the room. They couldn't sleep. The minutes were just ticking by. The guilt of leaving this fragile boy alone was destroying them.
I would be feeling the exact same way.
Right. Finally, in the middle of the night, the father and grandfather made a decision. They said, "This is too much. Football is not worth this pain."
Wow.
They decided they were going to march down the street, walk into La Masia, pack his bags, and drive him back home to Fuentealbilla.
Think about how close we came to never knowing the name Andrés Iniesta. They were literally putting their shoes on to go pull him out of the academy.
It was that close.
If they walk out that hotel door, the entire history of modern football completely changes. So what stopped them?
One person stopped them. His mother, Mari.
Wow.
As the men were getting ready to leave, she physically stepped in front of them. She was undoubtedly feeling the exact same grief and anxiety they were.
Of course she was. She's his mom.
But she looked at her husband and she said, "Let him try."
Let him try. That is so powerful.
She knew how deep her son's dream was. She knew that if they gave in to their emotions and took him home right then, he would regret it for the rest of his life.
So she held her ground.
She forced the men to sit back down. She made them wait.
You know, I am genuinely torn on how to feel about this. Part of me feels deep sympathy, almost thinking, isn't it cruel to leave a crying 12-year-old in a strange city?
It sounds harsh, doesn't it?
It does. But then the other part of me realizes it was the ultimate act of love. She took on the pain of missing him so that he could have a chance at greatness.
Exactly. It was a sacrifice for his future.
But how did he survive those early months? He was just a kid alone in a dorm room.
He had to build emotional armor. He found very small human ways to cope with the sadness.
What did he do?
To make his small area of the dormitory feel a little less lonely, he hung 2 posters on the wall next to his bed.
Okay.
One was a poster of the famous Hollywood actress, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh, a very normal teenage boy thing to do.
Right, completely normal. And the other poster was of the Barcelona first-team captain, a midfielder named Pep Guardiola.
Ah, Guardiola.
Guardiola was his absolute idol, the player he most wanted to be like. And if we look at this childhood trauma and connect it to the bigger picture of his career, we see something vital.
What's that?
That intense homesickness, the tears, the loneliness. It forced him to develop incredible emotional resilience. He learned how to endure internal pain without letting it break him.
That makes total sense. He survived the hardest thing he had ever faced. So later in life, the pressure of a football match probably felt easy in comparison.
Exactly.
He stayed at the academy, he survived those lonely nights, and because he was so naturally shy, he rarely spoke to anyone. Instead, he let his football do the talking.
He really did.
Let's explore his rise through the youth ranks.
Because he was physically small and socially quiet, it would have been very easy for coaches to just overlook him. But the moment the whistle blew on the pitch, you couldn't look away.
His brain was just different.
His mind worked faster than anyone else's. And this leads to another phenomenal story from the sources, taking place in 1999 at the Nike Premier Cup.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So Andrés is now 15 years old. He has survived 3 years at La Masia. He is the captain of the Barcelona under-15 team, and they have reached the final of this major international youth tournament.
A huge deal for a teenager.
Very huge. The game is incredibly tight. It goes down to the final minute of the match. And in that crucial final minute, Andrés steps up and scores the winning goal.
Which is an amazing moment.
Yeah.
But the truly magical part of this story isn't the goal itself, is it? It is what happened after the final whistle during the trophy presentation.
Exactly. The tournament organizers had brought in a special guest to hand the championship trophy to the winning captain.
And who was that?
That guest was none other than Pep Guardiola.
No way.
Yes, the same man whose poster was taped to the wall next to Andrés' bed.
Imagine that. You are 15, you just won a major final, and your ultimate hero walks up to hand you the trophy.
It's like something out of a movie.
But Guardiola did something else too, didn't he? He recognized the talent instantly.
He absolutely did. Guardiola had a brilliant football mind, and he saw something profound in this quiet teenager. There is a legendary moment that occurred around this time. Guardiola was watching Andrés train. Standing next to Guardiola was a 21-year-old midfielder named Xavi Hernandez, who was already playing for the Barcelona first team.
Okay, Xavi, another legend.
Right. Guardiola leaned over to Xavi and whispered something unforgettable.
What did he say?
He pointed at Xavi and said, "You are going to retire me." Then he pointed at the 15-year-old Iniesta and said, "But this lad is going to retire us all."
Oh, wow. This lad is going to retire us all. That is heavy.
Very heavy.
That is what we call a prophecy. In English, a prophecy is a strong prediction about the future, almost like a vision of destiny. Guardiola was making a prophecy that this kid was so exceptionally gifted that eventually he would take all of their jobs and surpass them all.
It was a very bold prophecy, and Guardiola wanted to make sure Andrés knew he believed in him.
Did you tell him?
A few days later, Guardiola sent the young teenager a signed photograph. On the picture, Guardiola wrote a personalized message calling Andrés the best player I have ever seen.
The best player I've ever seen. I want to push back on that for a second. If I am a shy, insecure 15-year-old and the greatest player at the club tells me I am the best he has ever seen, doesn't that create a crushing amount of pressure? I might freeze up entirely trying to live up to that.
For some players, yes, absolutely. That pressure would break them. But for Andrés, because he was already dealing with the internal pressure of homesickness and missing his family, this validation was the cure for his self-consciousness.
Oh, I see. It proved it was worth it.
Exactly. It proved to him that the sacrifice of leaving his village was worth it. It is a perfect example of the phrase, actions speak louder than words.
Right.
Andrés didn't need to shout to be noticed. His quiet actions on the field spoke loudly enough to capture the attention of his hero.
It is a beautiful full circle moment.
Yeah.
But I also love that the sources remind us he was still just a kid. There's a hilarious story from February 2001.
Oh, I know the one.
He is 16 years old.
Yeah.
And because he has been playing so well, he gets called up to train with the first team for the very first time. These are the global superstars. And what happens on his first day?
He completely disappears.
He just vanishes.
He arrived at the massive Camp Nou stadium complex, and he got entirely lost in the hallways. He couldn't find the first team dressing room.
You can just imagine the panic.
Oh, yeah. He was too shy to ask anyone for directions. The manager was waiting for training to start and realized the kid was missing.
So what did they do?
They actually had to send one of the star players, Luis Enrique, out into the corridors to wander around and find this terrified 16-year-old.
Wait, they literally had to send a superstar into the hallways to find him.
Yes.
I find that so incredibly human. It is like showing up for your first day at a new corporate job, trying to find the conference room, except all your new coworkers are famous millionaires.
That's a great way to look at it. But once Luis Enrique found him and brought him to the grass, all the nerves just vanished.
The ball at his feet was his comfort zone.
Exactly. He eventually made his official first-team debut on October 29, 2002, in a Champions League match, playing under the famous Dutch coach Louis van Gaal.
That debut marked the end of his childhood, really, and the beginning of a professional era that would change football forever.
The quiet boy who cried in his dorm room grew up to become the engine of what many football historians consider the greatest club team in the history of the sport.
We need to talk about the golden era of Barcelona.
Yes, we do.
I'm so ready for this. The era where they became known as the masters of time and space. Between 2004 and 2006, playing under coach Frank Rijkaard, Iniesta started to cement his place in the team.
A major milestone was the 2006 Champions League final against Arsenal.
Right, but he didn't start that game, did he?
No, he actually started that massive game on the bench. But when Barcelona was struggling, he was substituted on in the second half. His calmness and passing immediately changed the momentum, helping Barcelona win the biggest trophy in European football.
That performance really announced his arrival to the world. But the true explosion of his greatness, the era that defined his legacy, began in 2008.
And who took over as the manager of Barcelona in 2008?
His old idol, Pep Guardiola.
The man from the poster.
That's exactly.
Guardiola built his entire tactical system around a legendary midfield trio, 3 players: Xavi Hernandez, Andrés Iniesta, and Sergio Busquets.
Okay, I really want to understand the mechanics of this, because when you look at these 3 players, they don't look intimidating.
Not at all.
None of them were particularly tall. None of them were extremely muscular. None of them were fast runners. So how did 3 small, relatively slow guys completely dominate and humiliate teams filled with the biggest, strongest, fastest athletes in the world?
Because they didn't play a physical game, they played a cognitive game.
A mental game.
Exactly. They beat opponents with their minds, their spatial awareness, and their flawless technique. Let's break down the mechanics of how this trio functioned.
Okay, let's do it.
First, you had Sergio Busquets. He was the anchor.
Yeah.
He stayed deep, reading the game defensively, intercepting passes, and serving as the bridge between the defense and the midfield.
The foundation of the house.
Right. Then you had Xavi. The sources often describe Xavi as the metronome of the team.
Let me jump in and explain that word for our listeners because it's a great visual. A metronome is a mechanical device that musicians use.
Right, the clicking thing.
Yes. It swings back and forth, tick, 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 at a perfect steady speed to help the musician keep the rhythm. So saying Xavi was the metronome means he controlled the tempo of the football match.
Exactly.
He decided if the team would pass quickly or slow the game down to frustrate the opponent.
Precisely. Xavi dictated the rhythm, And then you had Andrés Iniesta. If Xavi was the steady, continuous rhythm of the song, Iniesta was the sudden, thrilling electric guitar solo.
I love that comparison.
He provided the magic. He was the line breaker. When an opposing team put 10 men behind the ball and the game was completely stuck, Iniesta would receive the ball in impossibly tight spaces, and he would use his signature dribbling move known as the croqueta.
The croqueta.
Yeah.
I want to explain the biomechanics of this move because it sounds so simple, but it is devastating.
Go for it.
The croqueta is when you shift the ball incredibly rapidly for the inside of one foot directly to the inside of your other foot, gliding past a defender's leg. It's like being a matador in a bull ring.
A matador, yes.
You don't overpower the charging bull. You wait until the last possible millisecond, and you just shift out of the way, letting the defender's own aggressive momentum defeat them.
That is a brilliant analogy, the matador. It requires an elite level of anticipation and vision.
Explain what you mean by those two words.
Well, anticipation means you can predict exactly how the defender is going to shift their weight before they even do it.
Like seeing the future.
Yeah, essentially. And vision means you can see geometric passing lanes on the field that no one else in the stadium can see. This trio perfected a philosophy of football called tiki-taka.
Tiki-taka.
The entire system was built on a simple rule: receive, pass, offer. You receive the ball, you instantly pass it to a teammate, and you immediately run to an open space to offer yourself for the next pass.
It sounds like a simple game of keep away, but they executed it at such a high speed that it was unplayable.
Unplayable is the right word.
They would pass the ball 800 times a game, making the opposing players chase shadows until they were completely exhausted.
And the defining moment of this tactical dominance for Iniesta happened in the 2009 Champions League semifinal against Chelsea.
Oh, I remember this.
The game was at Stamford Bridge in London. It was a brutal, physical match. Barcelona was losing. They had reached the 93rd minute, the final seconds of extra time.
If they didn't score right then, they were eliminated from the tournament.
I mean, I remember watching this live. The tension was just suffocating.
It was unbearable.
The ball gets scrambled to the edge of the penalty area. It rolls toward Iniesta. He doesn't take a touch to control it. He just swings his right foot and strikes it with perfect technique, sending the ball rocketing into the top corner of the net.
That goal was absolute celestial magic. It silenced the stadium and sent Barcelona to the final, which they ultimately won.
And in fact, that specific goal was the catalyst that kept their dream of the sextuple alive.
The sextuple.
In 2009, Barcelona won 6 major trophies in a single calendar year, an unprecedented achievement in football history.
6 trophies. It's almost hard to comprehend.
Over his incredible career, his club records are just staggering. He played 674 official matches for Barcelona. He won 32 trophies with the club, including 9 Spanish League titles and 4 Champions Leagues.
Hearing those numbers, it sounds like a perfect fairy tale. He has wealth, fame, global adoration, and every trophy imaginable.
But it wasn't a fairy tale.
No, it wasn't. And this is where the deep dive takes a very serious, deeply human turn. Because at the absolute peak of this professional success, Andrés faced the darkest psychological moment of his life.
It is a powerful reminder that even our biggest heroes struggle behind closed doors.
Yes, exactly. We are now moving into the period covering late 2009 and 2010.
Right after the impossible high of winning the sextuple and scoring that miracle goal against Chelsea, Andrés fell into a severe, crippling depression.
That is such a drastic shift.
The sources outline 2 major triggers for this darkness. First, his body started to betray him. He suffered a series of persistent muscle injuries that kept him off the pitch.
He was unable to play the game that was his main source of joy.
Right. But second, and much more devastatingly, he suffered a profound personal tragedy. His very close friend, a fellow professional footballer named Danny Jarque, died suddenly of a heart attack.
And Jarque was only 26 years old. That is tragic.
The emotional toll of that grief was catastrophic.
For our listeners who are improving their English, we want to look at the phrase emotional resilience in the context of overcoming personal struggles.
That's a key theme here.
A personal struggle is a deep internal battle, whether it's grief, anxiety, or depression. It is when your mind turns against you. Overcoming it means finding the strength to wake up every day and fight through that darkness.
And Andrés has been incredibly brave in speaking publicly about this time. He said he felt like he had entirely lost his identity. He felt hollow inside.
It was a terrifying period for his family, too. The sources reveal a heartbreaking, really vivid detail.
Yes.
His father recalled that during this time, Andrés, this wealthy, world-famous 25-year-old champion of Europe, was in so much psychological pain that he asked to sleep in his parents' bed.
Just like he did when he was a frightened, crying 12-year-old at La Masia.
That image is devastating.
Yeah.
It shows you the sheer gravity of his pain. A millionaire superstar reverting to a child seeking the safety of his mother and father.
He said he would just sit in his house waiting for the night to come so he could take a pill and finally turn his brain off.
I think we have to pause and admire his courage for talking about this.
Definitely.
In a hyper-masculine, highly scrutinized world like professional sports, admitting that you need psychological help, admitting that you are broken, is an act of extreme bravery.
It absolutely is. So how did he pull himself out of this abyss?
Well, from what I understand, football itself became his therapy. Specifically, the lead-up to the 2010 FIFA World Cup in South Africa.
Having a goal to focus on.
Right. Joining the national team camp, being surrounded by his teammates, and having a singular, monumental goal to focus on gave him a lifeline. He said that going to South Africa helped him, quote, feel like a footballer again.
And what a tournament South Africa was. Spain went on an historic, mesmerizing run.
I really did.
They utilized that same tiki-taka philosophy, controlling the ball, starving the opponents of possession, and they advanced all the way to the World Cup final against the Netherlands.
I want you to set the scene for this final, because it was not a beautiful game of football.
No, it was a war.
A total war.
The Netherlands realized they could not beat Spain by passing the ball, so they decided to use extreme physical intimidation. It was a violent, brutal match, filled with harsh tackles and yellow cards.
And no one could score.
The game was completely deadlocked at 0-0 after 90 minutes. It went into extra time. The physical and mental exhaustion of the players was total. Legs were cramping, lungs were burning.
And then the clock ticks to the 116th minute. There are only 4 minutes left before the agony of a penalty shootout.
I want everyone listening to picture the geometry of this moment. The ball falls to the Spanish midfielder, Cesc Fabregas.
Okay, picture it.
He looks up and sees Iniesta finding a tiny pocket of space on the right side of the penalty box. Fabregas slides the pass through the defenders. The ball bounces once.
The weight of an entire nation, the pressure of 1 billion viewers, is entirely on Iniesta's shoulders.
And in that moment of ultimate chaos, his mind is completely quiet. He doesn't panic. He waits for the ball to sit up perfectly, and with supreme technical grace, he strikes it furiously past the goalkeeper into the back of the net.
Spain wins their first ever World Cup.
Yes.
But, I want to argue that the greatest part of that moment was not the goal itself, it was the celebration.
The celebration is legendary.
Because as soon as the ball hit the net, Andrés ran toward the corner flag, and he did something that automatically gets you punished in football.
He grabbed the hem of his blue Spain jersey and violently tore it off.
Right. He didn't care about the yellow card penalty for removing his shirt.
Not at all.
Because he wanted the world to see the white undershirt he was wearing underneath. Written across his chest in thick marker pen was a message.
And what did the shirt read?
It read, Dani Garque siempre con nosotros, which translates to, Dani Garque always with us.
In the absolute pinnacle of his professional life, in the exact second he became an immortal legend in Spain, his very first thought was to honor his dead friend.
That is the essence of his character. We talked about leadership earlier. True leadership isn't just about yelling in the dressing room or wearing a piece of fabric around your arm.
It's about vulnerability.
It is about emotional resilience, finding the strength to carry the memory of your friend onto the biggest stage in the world, even when your heart has been shattered.
That single action elevated him beyond just a great football player. It made him an untouchable, eternal hero in Spain.
It really did.
In fact, for the rest of his career, whenever Barcelona traveled to play away games in rival stadiums, even against fierce rivals like Real Madrid or Espanyol, the opposing fans would stand up and applaud him when he was substituted out of the game.
That level of universal respect is practically unheard of in sports.
The dominance of the Spanish national team during this era was total. They won the European Championship in 2008, the World Cup in 2010, and then the European Championship again in 2012.
Back to back to back.
And during that 2012 tournament, Iniesta was so magical that he was officially named the player of the tournament.
Wow.
I want to share a statistic that truly highlights his genius in pressure situations. Andrés Iniesta is the only player in the entire history of football to be named man of the match in a World Cup final, a European Championship final, and a Champions League final.
That's crazy.
When the pressure was highest, he was always at his best.
It is an unmatched resume. But biology catches up with every athlete. As he moved into his mid-30s, the physical demands of playing elite midfield for Barcelona became too much to sustain every single week.
He knew he couldn't play at his peak forever.
This brings us to a fascinating part of his journey. How does a living legend gracefully walk away?
Well, he chose to leave on his own terms. In 2018, he announced he would be leaving Barcelona, the only professional club he had ever known.
How did his final games go?
His final major act in a Barcelona shirt was playing in the Copa del Rey final against Sevilla. It was a masterclass. Barcelona won 5-0, and Iniesta even scored a beautiful goal.
A perfect ending.
When the manager substituted him out near the end of the match, there were visible tears streaming down his face. Both sets of fans, the Barcelona fans and the Sevilla fans, gave him a massive, roaring standing ovation.
But the image that stays with me is from his final league game at the Camp Nou a few weeks later.
Oh, the mosaic?
Yes. The fans in the stadium created a gigantic visual mosaic with colored cards. It spanned the entire stadium and read, Iniesta, followed by the infinity symbol.
Iniesta infinity, meaning his legacy would last forever.
But what he did after the game was incredibly poetic.
It is a stunning visual. Long after the match had ended, long after the 90,000 fans had gone home and the stadium workers had dimmed the giant floodlights, Andrés walked back out onto the pitch alone.
Just him in the grass.
He took off his boots and his socks. He walked out to the center circle, sat down cross-legged, barefoot on the grass, and just stared into the empty, quiet stadium.
It gives me chills just picturing it. He was sitting in the silence of the arena that had been his home for 22 years. He was soaking in the echoes of his life.
It's a beautiful moment.
After leaving Barcelona, he didn't retire immediately, did he?
No, he wanted to experience a different culture. He moved his family to Japan to play for a club called Vissel Kobe, where he played from 2018 until 2023.
He still had it.
Even in his late 30s, his technique was flawless, and he helped them win the domestic Emperor's Cup.
That's awesome.
And the sources share a brilliant, surprising anecdote from his time in Japan. Another legendary Spanish player, the striker David Villa, also signed to play for Vissel Kobe.
Okay, 2 Spanish legends in Japan.
By sheer coincidence, they ended up living in the exact same apartment complex in Japan.
No way.
So here you have 2 multi-millionaire World Cup winning legends, and what do? They decide to carpool.
I love this. They are sharing rides like suburban soccer dads.
Exactly. They would drive in the same car to drop their kids off at local youth football practices. They would sit in traffic in Japan chatting about their own childhoods in Spain.
It shows that despite the fame, they were just 2 normal dads doing the school run.
It highlights that humility again. He had a very brief final playing stint in the United Arab Emirates with Emirates Club. And then just recently, on October 8, 2024, at the age of 40, Andrés Iniesta officially announced his complete retirement from professional football.
His transition into retirement is anchored by his strong family life. He has been married to his wife, Ann Ortiz, for over 12 years.
They've been through a lot.
They've weathered many storms together and have built a large, loving family. They are raising 5 children: Valeria, Paulo Andrea, Sienna, Romeo, and Ricio.
When a player retires, we often talk about their legacy.
Legacy, right. For anyone learning English, a person's legacy is the lasting impact, the memory, or the gifts they leave behind for the world after their time is done.
And a key part of his legacy is tied to the idiom, staying true to your roots.
Explain that for us.
This means that no matter how much wealth or global fame you acquire, you never forget where you came from, and you continue to honor the culture that raised you.
How exactly did Andrés stay true to his roots?
He proved it with his actions and his money. Instead of buying a yacht or an island somewhere, he poured his resources back into the tiny village of Fuentealbilla.
The village of 2,000 people.
Exactly. He purchased a 300-hectare vineyard right in his hometown and built Bodega Andrés Iniesta, a major wine production facility.
Why a vineyard in such a small town? Was it just for the wine?
No, it was about economics. By building this large business in a village of 2,000 people, he created vital, high-paying jobs for the locals.
Oh, that makes sense.
He brought tourism into the region, actively fighting against the severe problem of rural depopulation in Spain, where young people are forced to leave small towns to find work.
He gave his village an economic heartbeat.
And beyond that, He even bought the majority shares in Albacete, the very first small club he played for as a boy.
Just to help them out.
Yes, just to inject cash and save them from going completely bankrupt.
It is the ultimate proof of his character. He could have lived in a penthouse in Paris, London, or New York,
Anywhere in the world.
but he tethered his life and his fortune back to the dusty streets where he played futsal. He achieved the highest level of global greatness. He reached the absolute pinnacle of human athletic achievement without ever once seeking the spotlight.
He remained, at his core, the quiet boy who simply loved the geometry of passing the ball.
That is his true legacy. As we bring this deep dive to a close, let's reflect on the monumental life lessons we have unpacked today.
There are so many.
We saw what pure humility looks like, a man who never believed he was bigger than his team. We witnessed incredible perseverance.
He survived the agonizing tears of homesickness as a child, and he fought his way through the suffocating darkness of clinical depression as an adult.
We learned about the absolute power of teamwork, observing how his mind connected with Xavi and Busquets to change the sport forever.
We saw emotional strength in his tribute to Donny Jarque and a lifelong, quiet dedication to excellence.
It is a story that goes far beyond sports. And for all of you listening, we want to remind you that engaging with inspiring, real-life stories just like this one is truly one of the most effective and enjoyable ways to become fluent in English.
It really is.
When you are emotionally invested in a narrative, your brain absorbs the vocabulary, the grammar, and the pronunciation so much faster and more naturally than it ever could in a classroom.
We sincerely want to thank every single one of you for spending this hour with us, for listening closely, and for learning.
We loved having you here.
We invite you to continue your English learning journey with us in the next deep dive of English podcast Football Legends. We promise we have many more incredible stories to share with you.
Before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over today.
Okay.
Think all the way back to that dark, anxious night at the hotel rally in 1996. The father and the grandfather were pacing the carpet, smoking cigarettes, overwhelmed by guilt, ready to walk down the street, pull a crying 12-year-old boy out of the academy, and drive him away from his destiny.
What if Andrés Iniesta's mother hadn't stepped in front of that door? What if she hadn't said, "Let him try"?
The incredibly fragile line between a forgotten childhood dream and eternal football history was held together entirely by a mother's belief and a crying child's perseverance.
So I want to ask you, what dreams in your own life are waiting for you right on the other side of your most difficult moment?
What a beautiful question to end on. Thank you all so much for joining us on this journey. Keep learning, keep pushing through those hard moments in your own life, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone.